Imagine being trapped alive, unable to move, slowly dying not in minutes, not in hours, but over days. No escape, no mercy, just suffering designed as a spectacle. This wasn't a horror movie. It was a real punishment used in history, and it might be the cruelest ever recorded. Throughout history, punishments have reflected the darkest sides of human creativity. From medieval torture chambers to public executions meant to send a message, societies have often used pain as power. But among all recorded methods, one stands out as particularly horrifying, not because it was the fastest, but because it was deliberately slow. It was called Scaphism. Also known as the boats, this punishment was reportedly used in ancient Persia. The goal wasn't just execution, it was prolonged suffering. Here's how it worked. The condemned person was stripped naked and placed between two hollowed-out boats, or sometimes inside a single boat with a tight covering. Their head, hands, and feet were left exposed, but the rest of their body was tightly enclosed so they couldn't move. And came the part that made it uniquely cruel. They were force-fed milk and honey, over and over again. At first glance, that doesn't sound terrible, but this wasn't nourishment. It was part of the torture. The excessive feeding caused severe diarrhea, which pooled inside the confined space. More honey was spread across the exposed skin. Why? To attract insects. The victim was left floating in stagnant water, completely immobilized. Insects gathered. They fed. They laid eggs. The person couldn't swat them away, couldn't clean themselves, couldn't escape. Death didn't come quickly. Historical accounts claim it could take days or even weeks. Now, before we go further, I want you to think about something. Punishments like this weren't just about killing someone. They were about making an example. They were psychological weapons. And here is the uncomfortable question. What does it say about a civilization that invents something like this? But here's where it gets even more disturbing. Some historians debate whether Scaphism was as widely used as ancient sources claim. Much of what we know comes from Greek historians describing Persian practices, so exaggeration is possible. Still, even if amplified, the concept reflects a mindset that existed throughout history. Suffering is spectacle, and Scaphism wasn't alone. Take the Brazen Bull of ancient Greece. This was a hollow bronze statue shaped like a bull. The condemned was locked inside, and a fire was lit beneath it. As the metal heated, the person inside slowly roasted. Ingenious pipes were built into the bull's head, so that the victim's screams sounded like the bellowing of an animal. It turned agony into theater. Or consider Lingchi, sometimes called death by 1,000 cuts, used in imperial China for centuries. It was a slow execution, intended to maximize shame and suffering, often performed publicly. Again, punishment wasn't just physical. It was symbolic. If you're finding this as shocking as I did while researching it, take a second to like the video or subscribe. It helps more people discover deep dives into the strangest and darkest parts of history. And trust me, there's a lot more we haven't uncovered yet. Now let's continue. So what truly makes something the worst punishment in history? Is it the level of pain, the duration, the humiliation, or the intention behind it? Modern psychology suggests something important. Humans can endure intense pain if they know it will end. What truly breaks people is uncertainty and helplessness. That's what made punishments like Scaphism uniquely horrifying. The victim wasn't just in pain. They were immobilized, exposed, waiting. There was no control, no quick end. Just the slow awareness that time itself had become the enemy. In many ways, the psychological torture may have been worse than the physical. But here's something fascinating. As brutal as these punishments were, they were often justified at the time as necessary for order. Leaders believed fear maintained stability. Public suffering was seen as a deterrent. And yet, history shows us something different. Extreme cruelty rarely creates lasting peace. It creates resentment, instability, revolt. Over time, many civilizations moved away from spectacle-based punishments, not purely out of compassion, but because they proved ineffective. Today, while the world still struggles with justice and human rights, most societies recognize torture as a violation of fundamental human dignity. That shift didn't happen overnight. It took centuries of philosophical debate, revolutions, reforms, and painful lessons. Which leads to an important reflection. When we look back at punishments like Scaphism and call them barbaric, what practices today might future generations judge just as harshly? History has a way of humbling us. So, was Scaphism truly the worst punishment in history? It's impossible to measure suffering across centuries. But it stands as one of the most disturbing examples of deliberate, prolonged human cruelty ever recorded. Not because it was dramatic, not because it was loud, but because it was slow. And sometimes, the slowest punishments are the ones that haunt us the most. If this made you rethink how power, fear, and justice have shaped our world, let me know in the comments. Do you think extreme punishment ever truly deters crime? Or does it reveal more about the people in power than the people being punished? History isn't just about the past. It's a mirror. And sometimes, it shows us things we'd rather not see.